Rich CEO pretends to sleep to test the shy maid. Then he freezes when seeing what she does. Alexander Chen had everything money could buy. Penthouse suites in 12 cities, a billion-dollar tech empire, cars that cost more than most people's homes. But at 34, sitting in his San Francisco mansion at 3 in the morning, he'd never felt more alone. His wife had left him 6 months ago, taking half his fortune and leaving behind only a note that read, "You never truly saw me." Those words haunted him more than the divorce settlement ever could. Trust had become Alexander's most valuable commodity, and he had none left to give. Every person in his life wanted something: his money, his connections, his name. The parade of assistants, advisors, and associates who smiled to his face while calculating their cut behind his back had turned him cynical. So when his household manager hired a new maid without his approval, Alexander decided to conduct a test. A cruel one, perhaps, but one born from too many betrayals. He would pretend to sleep and see what she would do when she thought no one was watching. After all, character revealed itself in the shadows, didn't it? If you're intrigued by where this story is going, please hit that like button, drop a comment below, and subscribe to Trillionaire in Love for more inspiring stories about unexpected connections and the power of genuine human kindness. Your support means everything. Her name was Maya Torres, and she was 26 years old, though her eyes carried the weight of someone much older. She'd taken the job cleaning Alexander's mansion because it paid 3 times what she made at her previous position, and she desperately needed the money. Her younger brother, Carlos, had been diagnosed with leukemia 2 years ago, and even with insurance, the medical bills were drowning their family. Maya worked 3 jobs: this mansion in the mornings, a restaurant in the afternoons, and online tutoring at night. Sleep was a luxury she couldn't afford, but neither was losing Carlos. On her 3rd day at the Chen mansion, Maya entered Alexander's home office at 6 in the morning, her usual start time. She pushed her cleaning cart quietly. Years of practice, making her nearly invisible as she moved through wealthy people's homes. That's when she saw him, the infamous Alexander Chen, asleep on his leather couch, his shirt rumpled, his face troubled even in rest. An empty whiskey glass sat on the floor beside him, and his laptop was still open, displaying what looked like financial reports. Maya hesitated. She could come back later. But Mr. Chen's housekeeper had been explicit. The office needed to be cleaned before 7:30, before his first video conference. Maya took a breath and entered quietly, beginning with the bookshelves furthest from where he lay. She moved like a ghost, her movements practiced and soundless. What Maya didn't know was that Alexander was wide awake. He'd heard her cartwheels in the hallway and positioned himself quickly, curious to see what this new employee would do. His eyes remained closed, but his other senses were heightened, tracking her movements. He waited for it, the moment she would pocket something valuable, or photograph something confidential, or rifle through his papers. It always happened eventually. But Maya did none of those things. Instead, Alexander heard the soft whisper of her cleaning. She dusted his shelves carefully, treating his books, first editions worth thousands, with gentle respect. She cleaned around his workspace without touching his papers, respecting boundaries without needing to be told. When she reached his area, she paused for so long that Alexander nearly opened his eyes to see what scheme she was planning. Then he felt it, a blanket being draped carefully over him. The gesture was so unexpected, so simple, that Alexander almost broke character. Through slitted eyes, he watched as Maya retrieved a throw blanket from the chair across the room and laid it over him with the tenderness of someone tucking in a child. She adjusted it carefully, making sure his feet were covered, her movements gentle so as not to wake him. But that wasn't what made Alexander freeze. It was what happened next. Maya noticed the empty whiskey glass and the darkness under Alexander's eyes, visible even in sleep. She shook her head slightly, a small, sad gesture. "You work too hard," she whispered, so quietly it was almost to herself. "Even people with everything still need rest. I hope you find some peace today, Mr. Chen. Whatever you're carrying, I hope it gets lighter." Then she did something that shattered every cynical expectation Alexander had constructed. Maya reached into her cleaning cart and pulled out a small envelope. From it she took a piece of paper, Alexander could see it was a prayer card worn at the edges, and she placed it carefully on the table beside him. "My grandmother always said prayers are stronger when they're for someone else," she murmured. "So here's one for you." She blessed him. This woman who clearly had her own struggles, who worked as a maid because she needed every dollar, who had every reason to be bitter about wealth inequality, she blessed him. Then she gathered her supplies and left, pulling the door closed with barely a sound. Alexander lay there for 10 minutes after she left, staring at the ceiling, the blanket still warm around him, that prayer card sitting on his table like an accusation of his own hardness. His test had revealed something, but not what he'd expected. It had revealed his own emptiness. For the next week, Alexander watched Maya without her knowing, not with suspicion anymore, but with growing fascination. She never took anything. She treated his home with respect, yes, but more than that, she treated it with care. She watered plants that were dying from neglect. She opened curtains to let light into rooms that had been dark too long. She organized his chaos without overstepping, leaving his personal items where they were but creating order around them. And she was always so tired. Alexander noticed how she sometimes steadied herself against the wall, how her hands occasionally trembled from exhaustion, how she worked through what was clearly a fever one day, her face flushed, but her determination unshakable. It bothered him more than it should have. One morning he broke his own rule. Instead of pretending to sleep or avoiding her, he walked into the kitchen where Maya was cleaning and spoke. "Why do you do it?" Maya jumped, startled. Her eyes widened, as she registered her employer actually addressing her directly. "I'm sorry, Mr. Chen, do what? Work yourself to exhaustion. I've seen you here at 6 in the morning, and my security logs show you leaving past midnight sometimes to do tutoring sessions from your car." Maya's face went pale. "I'm sorry if I've been. I can park elsewhere if my car is a problem." "That's not what I'm asking." Alexander's voice was softer than he intended. "Why do you need 3 jobs?" The question hung in the air. Maya clutched her cleaning cloth, clearly debating how much to say to this billionaire who could destroy her with a phone call. Finally, she answered with simple honesty. "My brother. He's sick. The treatments are expensive and our insurance only covers so much. I'm trying to keep our family from losing everything while keeping him alive." Her voice cracked on the last word. "So I work. Because the alternative is unthinkable." Alexander felt something crack in his chest. "What's his name?" "Carlos, he's 19 and he's the best person I know. Tell me about him." So Maya did. Standing in that kitchen, supposedly there to clean, she told Alexander about Carlos, how he wanted to be a teacher, how he volunteered at an animal shelter even during his treatment, how he made terrible jokes to make the nurses laugh during his chemotherapy, how he worried more about Maya working too hard than about his own illness. She talked, and Alexander listened in a way he hadn't listened to another person in years. "How much do you need?" Alexander asked when she finished. Maya's eyes went wide with alarm. No, Mr. Chen. I didn't tell you this to ask for money. Please, I would never." "I know you wouldn't. That's exactly why I'm asking. How much for his treatment? I can't accept." "Maya." Alexander's voice was firm but not harsh. "In the past year, I've donated millions to charities, most of which were just tax write-offs to organizations where the money disappears into administrative costs. I've been robbed by people I trusted, manipulated by people I loved, and lied to by almost everyone in my circle. You covered me with a blanket and prayed for me when you thought I was asleep. You ask for nothing but give kindness anyway. So please, tell me how much." Maya's eyes filled with tears. 200,000, that's what we still owe and what his next round of treatments will cost. But Mr. Chen, I can't." "Yes, you can. Consider it done." "Why?" Maya whispered. "Why would you do this for someone you barely know?" Alexander thought about his empty mansion, his empty life, the coldness he'd wrapped around himself like armor. "Because you saw me when you thought I couldn't see you, and you were kind anyway. That's rarer than any amount of money." The challenges that followed weren't financial. Alexander could write a check and not feel it. The challenges were emotional, human, real. Maya struggled to accept help, her pride warring with her desperation. Alexander struggled to open up after years of isolation, his trust fractured but trying to heal. Carlos's treatment had complications that money couldn't fix, only time and hope and prayer. Maya collapsed from exhaustion one day at the mansion, and Alexander found her, rushing her to the hospital where doctors said her body was shutting down from chronic sleep deprivation. You can't save anyone if you destroy yourself, Alexander told her in that hospital room. I don't know how to do anything else, Maya admitted. I don't know how to not fight. Then let someone fight with you instead of alone, so they did. Alexander hired Maya as his personal assistant at 5 times her cleaning salary, insisting she quit her other jobs. He arranged for Carlos to be seen by the best oncologists in the country. He learned that wealth could be a tool for good, instead of just a measure of worth. Maya taught him about resilience, about finding joy in small moments, about the strength it takes to be vulnerable. Carlos went into remission 4 months later. Maya cried in Alexander's office when she got the call, and he held her while she shook with relief and gratitude and exhaustion, finally releasing its grip. Thank you, she whispered against his shoulder. Thank you for seeing us. You saw me first, Alexander replied, when I was too broken to see myself. 6 months after that morning, when Maya had covered a sleeping CEO with a blanket, she and Alexander stood in the mansion's garden, which was now full of light and life instead of lonely shadows. They weren't employer and employee anymore. They weren't even just friends. They were two people who had taught each other that trust could be rebuilt, that kindness was its own currency, that seeing someone, truly seeing them, was the greatest gift you could give. I was testing you that morning, Alexander admitted, pretending to sleep to see if you'd steal something or betray my trust. Maya smiled. I know. You weren't very good at fake sleeping. Your breathing was wrong. Alexander laughed, surprised. You knew. I knew. And I covered you with a blanket anyway. Because everyone deserves kindness, even people testing you. Especially people testing you, actually. That means they're hurting. I am, but less now. Me too. Carlos was there that day too, his hair growing back, his color healthy, playing with the dog Alexander had gotten him as a celebration gift. The kid who'd worried more about others than himself was getting to live, to become the teacher he dreamed of being, to keep making terrible jokes and spreading light. Alexander had learned that the richest things in life couldn't be bought. Trust had to be earned through consistency. Love had to be built through vulnerability. Hope had to be maintained through action. And sometimes the people who had the least to give offered the most valuable gifts of all. What do you think about the future? Alexander asked Maya as they watched Carlos play. I think it's brighter than it's ever been, Maya answered. For all of us. She was right, because sometimes the tests we set for others end up testing us instead. Sometimes pretending to sleep helps you wake up. And sometimes the person you think you're examining ends up being the one who sees you most clearly. Thank you for watching this story about unexpected kindness and the power of genuine human connection. If this touched your heart, please like this video. Share it with someone who needs encouragement today. Leave a comment about a time someone's kindness changed your life. And subscribe to Trillionaire in Love for more inspiring stories. Remember, we never know whose life we might change with a simple act of compassion. Sometimes covering someone with a blanket is more valuable than any fortune. See you in the next story.